Hey buddies!
Hey friends!
Welcome back to the Cosmic Compass, episode 2. Yay! So I thought we would start something fun. I was telling Liz before we went recording. So Kenda sent me these affirmator cards. Let me show you guys. They're obviously affirmation cards. Like, look, it's got the little unicorn. I know it's backwards because my screen's mirrored, but it's got the little unicorn with the bunny rabbit. It's so cute. So I thought we would pull an affirmation card at the beginning of each episode just to kind of set a cool little vibe for the show, maybe. So I can either just kind of shuffle through and like pull, or you can just give me a number. I don't know how many is in this deck, but this is how thick it is. Just shuffle them through until I find. Well, this one doesn't even want to move, so here we go. Aw. All right. Hold on. Can I unmirror? Nah, I'm not going to unmirror. All right. So it's going to be backwards, but it's got two little birdies and it's love. And it says, love is many splendored things. Today, I will notice and appreciate at least 3 of those splendors, like the fact that puppies make me feel like a parent, or the surge of self-congratulation I feel when I sink a 3-point trash basket shot on the first try, or how about the chills I get while singing along to name a song you know one. I mean, I didn't realize they had fill in the blanks, but that's fun. So I know today, like, you know, I try to do my little 17 seconds of gratitude, like if I'm driving somewhere, like I went to the gas station, and I know today I was like, you know, I'm really grateful for those of you that don't know, I'm located in almost spilled those. I'm located in Long Island, New York, and like the beginning of the week, we've just been hit with a lot of wind and rain from obviously hurricane. What was the name of that hurricane? Ian. Yeah, so I think that's where it's coming from. So we've had a lot of wind and rain this week. Well, yesterday was like the first like actual beautiful day that we've had, and it was just super nice. We barbecued at work. I was kind of sad because I was sitting there by myself, and I was like, I wish Liz was here to talk too. But I mean, and then that beautiful day just kind of spilled over into today. So I was like, you know, I'm really grateful for a beautiful day. I'm grateful that, you know, I have the day off because of, you know, the Danza, and I'm just grateful that I got up and I am present in my current life.
Dope.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yeah, it was great. And then I don't know if we want to talk about my session before we get into today's topic.
Sure.
Okay, so today I saw my Reiki master. I see her through virtual because she fucking moved away. I am gonna actually try to go see her in person before I move, so I'm super excited about that. I told her like once we get things figured out at work, then I'll text her. But so we kind of just chit chatted for a little bit at the beginning of the episode. Come on, Jen. Come on. You can do it. It's my brain. So we kind of chit chatted before, like prior to the session, and then we got into it. And one of the things, because there's been a lot of negativity around me with, you know, like work and other things. So I was like, I need it cleaned off. Like I do end every night before I go to sleep. I'm repeating this, I guess, affirmation to myself. Like I repel all negative energy. I welcome in love and light. And I just repeat it until like, I'm just like drifting off. So, and I told her that's what I was doing. So we do this session, and we get to a part where she's like, you know, you're just pretend that you're scrubbing off the negative energy. You start from your head, work your way down. And I was stuck in like my neck and throat chakra. Like it was kind of weird. Like it just got really, really warm in this area. And so I spent a lot of time like, you know, visually scrubbing this area, and then I didn't really spend any time on the rest of my chakras because like I have still, regardless of what I've been facing, still been feeling very fucking grounded with everything that's been going on. So then she started talking about like connecting with my higher self and having a conversation with my higher self. And whenever I have these sessions with her, there's times where I don't hear her anymore, because that's when I start having visions. So for those of you like that are watching, so behind me, this tapestry, so you can't see it fully, but it's kind of got like a circle of like pine trees with the moon in the middle. I told this to Liz a long time ago. When I first start getting visions, that's the first thing I see. Not necessarily the moon, but the circle of the trees. Like that is the first thing I see, and then the imagery starts coming in. So I was seeing that, and I stopped hearing what Lori was saying. And this was the weird part. I had one vision that came through, and a lot of my dreams lately and visions have been revolving around water. So it was like some people were standing on an island, and then it was really green behind them, and then obviously surrounded by water, and then it went away. But then at one point, me and Lori are having a conversation, and I had to stop because like I couldn't really hear, like it was kind of mumbled because the auditory, I don't know what you'd really call that, the auditory visions. Sorry, I hit my mic. The auditory stuff that's very new to me, it wasn't coming in clear. So like I had to kind of stop myself. I'm like, wait a minute, are we talking right now? Because my mic's muted, my camera's off, and like I stopped, and she's still going through her speech, and I'm like, that's weird. So then I slipped back into it, and me and her still having a conversation. It was really fucking weird. So after we're done, Lori goes over like what she sees on her end. For those of you that I don't know if all Reiki masters do this, but this is what Lori does. And I always let her talk first, just because like I always have to test the waters, because you know part of me is always a fucking skeptic. Well, she was talking about, you know, she was definitely seeing a lot of negative energy around me. And she said that when you started talking to your higher self, I could see you floating up towards the bright light, and you had 3 negative entities around you, like in the shape of a triangle. And she said the one at the bottom, she's like, it was really weird. She's like, I don't know if this is 3 people, if this is situations, or if this is groups of people. I don't know what's going on. It's just 3 negative entities around you. The one at the bottom is the one that's causing you the most. And it's kind of like that person or thing is sending the other 2 as like their little minion to hold you down. And she was like, but you rose above it. Like you got past it, like you brushed them off. And then when you got to the top, Saint Michael, who we've had this conversation. Saint Michael is like one of my main guardian angels. Like he has a very big presence in my life. Like there are a lot of times where I should have died, and he was there protecting me. Like he's a huge aspect in my life. So Saint Michael was there and handed me his sword, and she was like, you like put that in your belt like you would like a gun, and then you're ready for battle. Like I just got this strength that was coming from you. I'm like, that's crazy. So like here I am, I'm fucking ready for battle. Like fucking send me, I got Saint Michael's sword type of thing. So it was really interesting session. I definitely feel like I could definitely feel like a big weight lifted off, because that this negative energy has really got me. You guys can see it's really fucking getting to me. But that was my session with Lori. It was great.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have an appointment with her on Monday.
Yay! Okay, so then we get to talk about your session with her next week. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm really,
we'll see what happens.
I'm really glad. So
My sessions are not anywhere as, you know.
yeah, I mean,
all that fun stuff.
so, and that's the other thing. I'm gonna see if I can show you this. So as we're talking, she's like, this is really weird. She's like, do you have like a purple light on you? Like, are you sitting in front of a light? And I said, no, I'm sitting on my couch. And like, literally the only thing in front of me is my TV, and it's off. I'm like, nothing else is around me. And she's like, I'm seeing like a purple light on your forehead. Like it's very faint. Like I'm kind of seeing it. She managed to get a screenshot, and it's fucking there. And I hope I can show you this. Don't judge me, you guys, because it's not a very flattering picture of Jen. But let me see if... Oh, can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was insane. When she sent that, I was like, oh, I've never seen that before. So then somebody had sent me something about indigo children. And so I got some homework to do, because I got to learn about what indigo children are. Because like that's craziness. I've never seen that. And I'm like, well, we were
Now you've
doing,
opened up a can of worms.
I know, but like we were obviously doing some work on my crown and my third eye, like during all that. So I'm like, that's crazy. But
That's right where it is. So for
right.
those that like aren't watching,
Mm-hmm.
the light was right in the third eye
Mm-hmm.
chakra area.
Yeah. So that was just it was a very interesting experience. And that's how it always is. And I even explained to her because, like I said, I've been having a lot of dreams and visions that revolve around water. And for those of you that don't know, water represents, cleanliness and cleansing and all that. And she's like, the green, because I told her about the island, and she's like, that represents healing. I said, well, that kind of makes sense then, because a lot of the dreams have been revolved around like kind of murky water in some aspects. Like it's really weird. So I guess like the one time that it was murky water, I don't remember if I told you about these dreams or not, but the one time it was like, it was almost like it was algae filled water. So I'm like, oh, yeah, it was really gross, but like, it's really weird. And plus I'm a water sign. So like, water is very prominent in my life lately. I just have not been able to connect the dots. And I lucid dreamed the other day. Again, for the second time in my life. It was crazy. I was like walking with somebody, and I remember somebody said something. It wasn't necessarily like the best dream, but it wasn't like a nightmare. It was just some bad things were happening in this dream. And somebody had said something about the bomb is over there. And for some reason in my dream, I connected that as that's the trigger word to tell me that I'm dreaming. I've never said this to myself, like in this current state, in my awake state, so it was kind of weird that that's what I said, but like it still wasn't connecting yet. It wasn't until this red truck came tearing down the street and was about to hit me and the person I was walking with. And I was like, lucid dream, go. And I grabbed the person next to me and I flew. It was so weird. So like I had a moment. It was probably about like 5 minutes of lucid dreaming, but like I got up, I flew, and I was like, saved me and the person I was with, and then we flew off to somewhere, and then I woke up shortly after that. It was craziness. It was weird, but that's been my kind of my week.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so kind of going back to Lori and like that whole, having a session and things like that, kind of leads us into our topic for today, which is self-love, self-care. Jen and I decided that we while the spiritual journey is not a linear process, we decided that that's kind of where it starts.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of where, well, I can't say it really, that's where it starts, but that's where, like, I guess you kind of focus first.
Yeah. It's like the foundation, at least for us. Again, you guys know we're newbies on a spiritual journey, but for us and the journey that we've been on this year, like that's kind of what the foundation has been self-care and self-love.
Right. So like where or how we got started on all this, didn't come necessarily out of a place of self-care or self-love, or something happened to us, or we started a conversation with someone or whatever that kind of was like piqued our interest. But as you start to learn different things and study different things, and you start to find that, like you said, mentioned before, I think foundation was a good place, is a lot of the different topics that we'll talk about in some of our later episodes, a lot of it is very difficult to be successful with if you don't have self-love.
Yeah.
So again, that's kind of when we thought that starting here at kind of a ground level thing was like a good place. So, we can talk about like, what is self-love? If you want to maybe give your perspective on what that means, or...
So for me, like self-love it's knowing your own worth. And the reason why, like I had told Liz that this is like the foundation last week, is because when it comes to like your manifestations, regardless if you're manifesting monies or, we see on TikTok all these manifesting gurus, and I don't mean that offensively. I have to put that in quotes because I do believe that a lot of the ones that I've come across, obviously not talking about the ones I've actually worked with, but, there are ones out there that I don't want to call them scammers.
It's a loosely used term. How about that?
Yeah, so like they say, like, you'll see they have the grab you moments, like, oh, this is, manifest your SP in just 5 days type of thing. And it's like, that's bullshit, because you're giving people false hope. But then when, because like I'm paying attention to, these that's the algorithm I was in, and a lot of it always boils down to self-love. And the reason why they're like, oh, you can manifest them back in, 5 days, I don't think that's actually true. And I'm literally just using that as an example, not something that I'm doing personally, but just as an example. Oh, you can manifest $500 in an hour or some bullshit. It always comes back to knowing your own worth, and using the love as an example. By the time you start figuring out your own self-worth and loving yourself truly, deeply, whatever, you don't want that SP back. That's the fucking scam. Like, that's why I call it kind of scammy, because it's like they're really just teaching you how to love yourself and put yourself first, so that way you're not all woe is me type stuff. But I mean, it's
the carrot on a stick.
Right, exactly. But I mean, at the end of the day, it is still a good message in regards to the self-love, because you have to know your worth. One of the things that me and Liz remind each other of constantly is like, stop talking to yourself like that. If I don't talk to you like that as your friend, or you're not going to talk to me like that as your friend, then you should not talk to yourself. And you guys know what we're talking about. Like, when we give advice, like, we always give everybody else the best fucking advice in the world, but we never take our own advice. Like, Liz could be like, I fucking had such a bad day. I woke up late and I got to work 5 minutes late. And then I'll be like, now, buddy, like, let's switch that up.
Reframe.
Yeah, let's reframe that. You woke up late because you needed extra sleep. You came to work late and you had to leave 5 minutes late because you probably just missed out on a really terrible accident, either right before or right after. You know what I mean? So we're always reframing that. But then, like, the next day, I'm like, I'm so mad at myself because I woke up late. You know what I mean? Like, we do this shit to ourselves all the time. And we're always like our worst critics. And it's like, if you don't talk to your dearest closest friend like that, then you should not be talking to yourself like that. So it just goes back to, self-worth and self-love, and you just have to love yourself the way you love.
And it's easier said than done, for sure. Like you just said, we're constantly having to like remind each other, like when you're like, I'm so stupid, how did I? And it's like, hey, you're not stupid, right? You made decisions based on information that you had at that time. Or something that I heard today. I did a lot of driving today. I was listening to another podcast, and they were talking about how there's no wrong turns. And and it is, you have to remind yourself that, like, anything you've been through or experienced, or right, things don't happen to you, they happen for you.
Yeah.
And there's always like that, you could call it a positive uptake, or just sit down and say, okay, like you said, reframe. Okay, so today wasn't how I thought it was going to go, but why maybe did it go this way? And like you said, maybe you weren't put on the road because if you would have gotten on the road 5 minutes earlier, you would have been in a fatal accident, or whatever the reason is. And just like giving yourself that break,
Yeah.
like, we're human beings, we make mistakes, or we maybe don't have all the information, or maybe aren't listening to our intuition, or need to hone in on some different skills. And but it's okay. At the end of the day, you're fine, and the world is not ending.
Yeah.
And sometimes those crazy things wind up creating really great, situations. Like,
Yeah.
you met someone new, or found a different way to go to work, or, oh, hey, there's a park over there that I never even knew existed, whatever it may be. But, so just kind of remembering that, like, and again, you hear it all the time, but like we've talked about before, is really taking the meaning of those words, which is like, if you can't love yourself, one, how can you love anyone else? And two, how can anyone else love you?
Yeah.
Because, like, you have to, so it goes back to like self-reflection, and things that you may not I guess, necessarily like about yourself,
Mhm.
right? Those are just versions of
Yeah.
ourselves. That doesn't make us who we are,
Yes.
right? So I think I saw like a meme or something that was like, that was the rough cut edition of myself. Wait until like the final cut is finished, and that's really all it is. We go down these paths, and especially when we're not aware
Mhm.
or awake or however you want to put it. I know I spent a lot of my life just kind of like being lost and not really knowing what I wanted or where I wanted to go or what I wanted to do. And
Mhm.
so what you kind of like just bump into everyone and get absorbed by everything. And uh it's not until you're like in it that you're like, yeah, I don't really like what's going on around me.
Yeah.
So the more you become aware of yourself and are kinder to yourself, it changes a lot, I think, on the inside, and
Oh,
the things that,
100%.
you
A
know, the
hundred
way you
percent.
view things, the way
Yeah.
you project things out into the world.
Mhm.
When you're sitting there talking about I'm fat or I'm dumb or I'm not this or I'm not that.
Mhm.
Who said you had to be anything else but what you are? And I think
Right.
that's what we kind of forget sometimes is that uh, you are who you are, and it's okay to be who you are.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes we may not vibe on the same level as everyone else, and that's okay. Then we just
Mhm.
find people that we do vibe
Yeah.
with.
And I think that that's a good segue into, self-talk, because that's a big aspect of, self-love, because I had very negative self-talk. And I think that we could definitely talk about egos on this one. So, you're gonna feel crazy when you do this, because like I did it. I felt like I was a crazy person, but I promise you, you're not. Like, this is all of this all of this is literally backed by science. Like, we know we have our ego, our super id, and our id. So when we start breaking these portions of ourselves down, a lot of the negative self-talk comes from your ego. I named my ego Penelope. Penelope is a bitch, and Penelope says some very not nice things to me, and really kind of just messes with my subconscious and my state of mind, all of this stuff. And so what you have to do is you have to divvy up these different parts of yourself. So your ego, and then you have like your hype man, which I call as the beast, and then you have your higher self. So your higher self, that is you, who you truly are, and that's who you're trying to be, like, at all times. And then you have your ego, Penelope, who's trying to bring you down and, lower your frequency and make you feel like a bag of shit. And then you have your hype man that's like, nah, I'm got you. It's kind of like the little angel and devil on your shoulders is kind of what you got going on. So once you get your ego in check, and I think we could probably do a whole ass episode on how to get your ego in
Yeah,
check.
I gotta plan that.
Yeah, so we can definitely talk about that, but like, once you get your ego into check and you start actually connecting with your higher self, because it's not your hype man that you're trying to be. Like, your hype man's literally there just to counter whatever your ego's saying, to keep you connected with your higher self. So once you're truly connected with your higher self, then you go through. It's funny because me and Hallie just talked about this. You quantum leap. Like, quantum leaping is a real thing, and it didn't hit me until we started talking about it. I was like, oh my God. So like, then you're connected with your higher self, and you start thinking about, like, Liz, you've known me for almost 2 years now. Look at how I am now compared to how I was, back in January. That is a completely different gen, right?
Yeah.
And so I realized, like, yes, that was still me. That was just a different version of me. And I'm more connected with my higher self now, and like, seeing that these different versions of me exist, like that's when you quantum leap. And I hope I explained that right. I probably have it fucked up, but so, Hallie, please don't come at me when you watch this and be like, that's not what I said. But like, pretty much what I interpreted was, you quantum leap is because you just put yourself more connected to your higher self, and you recognize what you just left in the past. And so you're no longer living for the future. You're trying to live for the now, preparing for yourself for the future.
And I think like the most important takeaway from that too is you grew from there, but
Mm-hmm.
don't beat yourself up for being that way, because
Yeah.
again, we can only do things based off the things that we know at that time, right? And
Right.
again, you're talking about living in the now, right? That's like a whole another episode or a
Yeah.
conversation. Um, and so if you're living in the now, then you can't worry about who you were in the past,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we can't go backwards, we can only go forward. So
Exactly.
the key is like, all right, I used to be a terrible person
Yeah.
and I'm working on being a less terrible person,
Yeah.
and that's all you're striving to do. And
Right.
you probably weren't really a terrible person, and so we just have to keep that in our minds. And it's weird the things that you'll start to attract into your life uh when you take it easy on yourself,
Oh, 100%. And I think it's like it's okay to acknowledge like your past, like you should, like
Oh yeah, to
because
not repeat the same
well,
mistakes
not only
or same
that, but like
experiences.
that's what molds you into the person that you are is experiences. So like,
Yeah.
and then these lessons that the universe gives you, like you might think like I literally was going through this not too long ago. Like, why do I have to keep learning or going through the same shit? Like, I go through the same shit all the time. Jen, it's because you're not learning the fucking lesson. So, like, you could be appreciative of the lesson and, like Liz said, not repeat the same shit. So then you can move forward and just, like I said, be connected with your higher self.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes into um making time for yourself, making space for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
making yourself a priority. I know that's something that to this very moment I struggle with. Um, I'm always doing for others. I'm always doing what others need, or I feel that they need before I do anything for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still working on, pushing myself to the top of that priority list.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but by doing that, right, I think it gives us that time to again self-reflect and go, okay, what can I learn from this? And then, make that mental note, okay, duly noted, let's not do that again next time,
Yeah.
and I think that's why you were probably repeating the same mistakes or felt like you were like on a groundhog day loop,
Mm-hmm.
was just because you continued to put others before yourself.
Yeah.
And then you finally realized and started setting boundaries. And again, really just kind of prioritizing yourself is honestly where that starts.
Mm-hmm.
And say, yeah, no, I don't feel comfortable doing that, or I don't,
Yeah.
you know, want to do that, or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and so then it kind of just evolved from there, I think.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It really is,
It
especially because, when you get into like our age, this is your whole
Yeah.
life.
Well, I was going to say, like, it's hard, especially if you are a very selfless person. Like, I consider myself very selfless. And I know, Liz, obviously you're a very selfless person. And so, like, when you start prioritizing and making yourself first, you start feeling very selfish. And it's
Mhm.
not a very good feeling that you're feeling. I will tell you that one, it is okay to sit in that feeling and like, that's where you come in with the positive self-talk and be like, you're not, because you're not being selfish, and I know I've had this negative self-talk with myself quite a bit. We're saying self a lot, but, like, you're being so selfish right now. And it's like, but I'm not, because, I'm 37 years old and 90% of my life has been for serving others and putting others before myself.
And
And
not all of those things made you feel good,
right. And
you know?
and it's not people that were deserving of that. And that was the biggest thing, is like you have to be able to differentiate. Is that the right word?
Yeah, or discern.
Figure out who's actually deserving of that. And, once you start, I guess, perfecting your craft a little bit and, adding these tools to your toolbox, eventually you're going to start being able to pick up and trusting yourself and trusting your
Mhm.
intuition and knowing, is Liz the person? Like, is she worthy of, me prioritizing her this one time, type of thing. So, you'll figure it out. And I don't know.
And again, it sounds weird when you say it because you'll hear it a lot, especially like on this journey and then this space, um, about trusting yourself and trusting your intuition and that you have all the answers.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that kind of goes back to self love. in the sense that you do have all the answers. And if
Mhm.
you need, and again, I know I spent, a good part of my life feeling that I needed validated from others,
Yeah.
right? Which is based off of an inability to validate myself, which
Mhm.
is a lack of self-care or self-love.
Mhm.
And so, like you said, trusting yourself, knowing that, if you just ask your higher self, for guidance, ask your guardian angels, ask the universe. There is literally a saying, me, I love laying it on thick with the cliches, right?
Yeah.
But ask and you shall receive, right?
Mhm.
Something that we've all heard a lot of the time. And if you just put it out there, something will come back to you, um, with the answer, or point you in the right direction,
Mhm.
or, put you at ease, or whatever it is that you put out there. And again, that's kind of how you rely on yourself, and how
Mhm.
uh what to do next if you're
Yeah.
lost, right? Or if you're feeling some kind of way about yourself, and you're sitting in a feeling or a thought, or you're kind of letting your ego take over, just take a step back and slow down. And, but like, this is all you. You're doing
Mhm.
all of this for you, with you, by you, however you
Yeah.
want to say it. And, because I know I'm guilty of it, where I feel the need to, uh, consider myself an open book, because I feel the need that, like, I need to talk to someone. I need someone to tell me the answer, like,
Mhm.
with whatever it is that's going on. I'm frustrated about this, or I'm stuck here, or, and we talked about this, I think, a little bit in the last episode, about how I had a lot of crutches,
Mhm.
in the beginning, and it was great and super uplifting. But when all of those crutches were gone, I was like, okay, what now? And
Yeah.
I have had the opportunity over the last couple of months to, really understand what that means,
Mhm.
to, like, rely on yourself,
Yeah.
and to, like, you put yourself here, your higher self did, right?
Mhm.
And so you already knew the plan. You already kind of were like, all right, this is what we're going to do this time around, if you will. So then how is it possible that you don't know the answers, that you
Mhm.
can't look within to find them? And again, I know it sounds like, how the fuck do you look inside yourself for something? If I
Yeah.
knew, I would just do
Yeah.
it. Uh
Well,
so
that
it
goes
is a
into knowing yourself. Like you have to know yourself, and that's like a big part of the journey too. And I think that's probably another topic we can get into. But like once you know yourself and you're able to, you get these tools for your toolbox, then you can navigate. With guidance from your ancestors, the universe, your higher self, whatnot, and like that stuff comes quick. Like I just posted a
yeah.
TikTok last week. Like were we on the phone then? I don't think we were on the phone. But I was driving and I was having a moment of contrast and I was just like, for fuck's sake, like I just need a sign. Am I on the right track right now? Because like I was starting to have that moment of feeling lost. And right then I looked down and it's 444 on my clock. I did a quick screenshot and 444 is showing like the angel number is, that you are being protected and guided by your angel. So I was like, bet, like we're fucking good to go, so knowing yourself and knowing your surroundings, like you're going to start picking up, the universe is always giving you signs to guide you, so you're not ever alone. It's just, you have to be aware of, what the universe is showing you, what your higher self is showing you, and just trust your intuition, not your ego. Your intuition comes yeah, fuck Penelope, but like cuz there's times where I'm like, my intuition is saying this, but I was getting it confused because I didn't know myself. So I'm sitting here like listening to Penelope and instead of my heart, where your intuition. So that's where knowing yourself definitely comes into play with your the self-love, self-worth, and all that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think next week's episode will have to be about the ego, because we've got a lot of segues into that,
Yeah,
and how
yeah.
and how and how it affects a lot of things. But your self-love,
Mhm.
100%,
Yeah.
because that bitch is crazy, and she is really, uh really hard on you. But we'll
Yeah.
get into the reasons why that is, in another episode. But
Mhm.
yeah, so I think that, because, like, self-love affects the way that you can manifest things.
Mhm.
Self-love affects how you achieve goals, how you connect with other people, how you get connected with the right people, depending on what it is that you're trying to do.
Mhm.
Um, and basically what you magnetize into your life,
Yeah.
right? So, when we, and again, this is kind of getting into like another topic, but when we focus on the things that we don't want, we actually wind up attracting them into our lives.
Yes.
And so when we don't want to be fat and we don't want to be broke and we don't want to, which are usually all of the things that we kind of beat ourselves up about and have a really poor self talk about,
Mhm.
um, you wind up manifesting them into your life.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like we said in the beginning, like this is kind of the foundation to, uh, I don't want to say successful journey because everybody's journey is different. That's
Yeah.
not really the word I want to use, but I guess helping you along.
Yeah. A little
Uh,
building block.
yeah, uh, because it really does, when you could kind of just be at peace with yourself and you just know
Mhm.
that this is who I am and this is how I operate. And there's so many different ways that you can learn more about yourself.
Mhm.
There's astrology, there's human design. There's getting working with like a Reiki master who can
Mhm.
do like past lives work or inner child work or uh, balancing your chakras. And again, these
Mhm.
are kind of also all different things you can do for self-care,
Mhm.
because that's another part of self-love is caring for yourself.
Yeah.
So, and again, like I said, I'm really struggle with this a lot and I really have to keep reminding myself about things, like last night, for example, I was up until 2 a.m. building fences for horses, like in the middle of the night, not really taking very good care of myself.
Yeah.
And so, balance is freaking key to it all, really, spiritually, emotionally, physically,
Mhm.
mentally, all the ollies,
Yeah,
you
ollies.
know,
I like
and
that. The ollies. You should trademark that for all the ollies.
so, and again, it all starts with self-love.
Mhm.
I really feel like uh, when you start to juggle things, when you start to learn to juggle, you learn with one ball. And then as you get the rhythm of that, you throw in another one and then you
Mhm.
throw in another one. And, but you're going to do it standing on 2 feet, not
Yeah.
trying to balance on a unicycle. And, that
Right.
comes way later. But so you have to be grounded and you have to
Mhm.
be okay. Cause I feel like when you can't stand to be around yourself or can't stand to look at yourself in the mirror or, just love yourself for who you are,
Mhm.
it blocks you in
Yeah.
ways where you're incapable of seeing signs that the universe might, be sending you, or it really amps that ego up and makes you feel like you're not capable of doing things, when really you're capable of doing whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
It just set your mind to it and do it. But we get lost in fear
Mhm.
or self-doubt or,
Yeah.
those things, and those are all limiting.
And I also think that a lot of it is like a comfort thing because, people are scared of the, like, I mean, you kind of mentioned fear, but like, people get complacent because, like, oh, this is what I'm used to. And, just to add a couple points to a few of the things that you said, like, it's all, you got to take baby steps. Like,
Mhm.
I've seen it. I'm just as guilty of it. When you get on the spiritual journey, like, you want to be there right now and not like, oh, I'm just gonna skip past all these things. No, buddies, you guys have to do the work. Like, inner child work is probably, at least in my experience, the most important part of the journey, is because you cannot move forward. It's kind of like, what was that rubber band analogy where, like, you got this crud that's holding you back to a rubber band, and I'm just going to keep going forward, and eventually that rubber band's going to yank you back. So, you gotta snip that rubber band and, do all the work. And then
Well, I
what
think
was
it's just one of the steps that helps you figure out who you are
Mhm.
and recognize why you do some of the things the way that you do them,
Yeah.
and then become comfortable with that and go,
Mhm.
oh well, that okay, that's cool. So I'm not just some crazy whatever because I'm not like someone else, you know?
Yeah.
And that's like another thing. Like we cannot compare ourselves to people are like snowflakes,
Mm-hmm.
right? In the sense that everybody is different.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you have a doppelganger and you guys may look physically similar, you're probably completely different
Yeah.
on the inside. And so you can't, like you and I, we are in, I feel like, really different places in our spiritual journey,
Yeah.
right? And but I don't compare myself to you. You experience things differently than I do.
Mm-hmm.
You get visions and you do all these things. And that's not something that I've experienced, but I'm not like, oh man, I
Yeah.
want vision. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, super cool for you. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I think
Yeah.
that's amazing, and I'm just sitting here over here going, okay, well, let's see where my journey takes me. Not,
Yeah.
and I think that's like one of the things that, and again, it alludes back to self-concept,
Mm-hmm.
and how we view ourselves physically or
Yeah.
how we wish we were, like I was literally watching TikToks, fucking TikTok. And this lady was making TikToks about how she was trying to be, I guess what they call crunchy, means like you're a real health nut. And like crunchy like granola, I
Yeah,
guess.
that's new
Like if
terminology
there's
for
like
me, but okay.
anyway, so she's like, borderline doing some things, whatever. And like another mom would come and she'd be like, oh, dang, she's way crunchier than I am. I have to get rid of all this stuff. Right. And it's comparing yourself. Why
Yeah.
do you feel lesser than that other woman? You're doing the things
Right.
that work for you, and that's fine.
Exactly. And what you're essentially doing when you compare yourself to others is you're putting yourself in a place of lack. And like
Yeah.
one of the things, I think one of the biggest, I'm going to say this a lot because there are so many big takeaways that I take from like things that I read and listen to, but I think it's Abraham Hicks
Mm-hmm.
mantra, I guess, but everyone is you pushed out. So like if you're operating yourself as like a place of lack and you're just like, man, I feel really cruddy about myself because that person has things that I don't, you are not going to, and regardless if you follow like the law of attraction or the law of assumption, like I think it's kind of the same, it's just different methodologies. I don't know if that's the right word, but regardless, if you're working from the law of assumption, law of attraction, if you're working from a place of lack and you remind yourself that everyone is you pushed out, it's I think, Liz, I think you were experiencing this quite a bit like over the summer where you were hitting these moments of contrast, and then you're it's all getting reflected back to you because everyone is you pushed out, like everyone is your mirror. So like if I go to work on Tuesday and I'm in a real shitty mood, and then all of a sudden my coworker's in a real shitty mood, it's like, what the fuck are they mad at me for? It's like, hey, dumbass, that's because everyone is you pushed out and you came to work with that fucking attitude, so you just infected everybody with that shit.
Yeah. 100%. And I think, and again, we could keep looping it back around, right?
Yeah.
So when you have an ugly depiction of yourself, right, you push that out into the world, and now everything looks ugly to you. Or like you said, when you come from a place of lack or you come from a place of want,
and that's how people are going to look at you too. Yeah, so people are going to start looking, like people are going to start validating what you're feeling. It's like, you don't want that. You don't want that at all. Like you only need yourself to validate, like you guys, for those of you that have followed me for, almost the past 2 years, like you guys know the issues that I deal with. Like I have a lot of insecurities. And so you guys know that I have like mommy issues. It's so weird to say, but like I have mommy issues. And so that's where a lot of my insecurities come from. And it's like, one of the things that Hallie had told me on one of our sessions where we were working on this is like, I got to be my own mom. Like I don't need, and it sucks saying this out loud, and I don't mean any disrespect to, my bio mom or my, adopted mother, but like, I don't need them because like everything that you think you need from someone else, you can give to yourself.
Facts.
And
facts don't have feelings.
Yeah, and that comes on self-love. Like that right there, that comes on that's on self-love and self-worth. So you don't need, I don't need Liz to validate. Like I just vented her prior to the episode about some work stuff. It's like I didn't need her to validate anything. Like, I already know that I'm right about, my feelings on this situation. But, sometimes it's okay to, lean on a buddy and be like, I just need a vent,
It's about, I think, like it's about letting that energy go, right?
Yeah.
It's a negative feeling that's sitting inside of you, and you just want to be like, bleh, and
Yeah.
get it out.
Yeah.
And like the only way we can do that sometimes is to just let it out. Notice I
Hmm.
didn't say anything to you about, yeah, I just listened. And that's
Yeah,
all.
and I didn't need that. I literally just needed you to listen because, like, I already know that I'm right on all of my feelings about this whole situation. Like, I didn't need you to validate it. I just needed to get it out because, like, it's when you start compartmentalizing and holding that stuff in. Again, we could talk. I keep hitting my fucking microphone. I'm sorry, you guys. We could talk about that whole rubber band thing. So we'll say this situation here at work has a rubber band on me. I'm like, meh, it'll be fine. I'm just gonna hold it in, and then I start fucking stretching that rubber band, and that rubber band, if I don't cut it, it's either gonna yank my ass back, or it's gonna fucking break and snap me in the back. And I don't know if anyone's ever worked out with those bands and those things snap on your back, but it does not feel good.
Yeah. So, it's like again every day, and that's I think a key thing too is it's not something that you're just gonna like wake up one day and be able to do.
Yeah.
You're not just gonna be like, okay, I love myself.
Yeah.
Like, every day you're gonna have to remind yourself, all right, hey, whoa, calm down.
Yeah.
It's okay. You know, or okay, how can I reframe this? And then like you had said before, the more that you know, become aware of it, the more that you handle it in that moment,
Hmm.
the more it becomes readily available to you, to where now it's instead of taking minutes, it's taking less than seconds.
Yeah.
And you're just like, yep, stop doing that. Thank you, but
Yep.
no thank you.
One good tool that Hallie taught me, and this is something that I do because a lot of, like, if you're anything like me, you get up and you're rushing around in the morning to get ready to go to work. Like, I have not quite backed my wake up time to the point where I give myself time to just drink my coffee, work out, and do X, Y, and Z. Like, it's yeah, exactly. No, it's jump out of bed and fucking hurry up and get ready for work and rush through traffic. So one of the tools that she gave me is, obviously I have to brush my teeth. Everyone brushes their teeth in the morning, at least I hope so. So during that time of brushing your teeth, you just start. It's kind of like our 17 seconds of gratitude, but you're amping up your self-talk. So while I'm brushing my teeth, but you know what? I really like my eyes. I have awesome eyes. You know what? My teeth are really white. And you just go through and you just compliment and just love on yourself for that 2 to 3 minutes that you're brushing your teeth, or hopefully it's not like 15 seconds, but like the 2 to 3 minutes that it takes for you to brush your teeth, and you're just loving on yourself and just complimenting yourself. And even if like you start running out of things, like, you know what, like that one strand of hair that's like, I like how it's like looped down there and then that one's like going that way. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be like all superficial things either. Superficial, the right word? You could be like, you know what? I really like how, I brush my teeth starting from the left side of my mouth to the right side, or, it just, the whatever compliment you can come up with, just do that for the time that you're brushing your teeth. And eventually that's going to reprogram your subconscious, which is eventually going to overtake, or it's not overtake, but control your ego, because that negative self-talk is so fucking bad. And I've gotten to such a good moment, like how Liz was saying earlier, like sometimes it takes moments, sometimes like you'll get it down to seconds. And I've done that. Like, I'm getting it down to seconds. Like, Penelope will show her stupid fucking face and I'll be like, okay, why do you feel that way? Okay, awesome. But you know what? You don't have to feel that way because we're awesome. So get back in the back seat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, thanks, bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks for your input, but I don't need it, bye. So, and it's literally happening so much quicker for me now because I've gotten in that habit of, while I'm brushing my teeth, just loving on myself, even with my face being broken out because of stress. It's like, you know what? In between these pimples, my skin's really smooth and
I love it.
Yeah. Nice little tool for your toolbox. So
it is. No, that was a really good one.
Yeah. So
sharing.
Of course. That's what we're here for. So what are some some of your favorite self-care things?
Well, right now it's Lori.
Yeah. That's not true. That's not true because you're out there petting on your horses every day. That's also like, even though obviously your animals depend on you, but you enjoy being around your animals, and
I really do.
that's fulfilling for you.
It is fulfilling for me. So it is a favorite thing of mine to do. And that's why I said I have a lot going on right now, which is pulling a lot of my attention away from the things that I want to do. But I'm starting to find some balance and things are starting to, uh, no, they're not. Don't let me lie. I'm like, my house is a
I love
construction
that
zone
you
right
caught
now.
yourself mid vibe, like, stop lying.
Nah, let me not lie. But in between the tornado, which I currently live in, which is a hilarious reference, I'm trying to find ways to do better.
Mhm.
So I actually found a CrossFit gym that's like right around the corner from me.
How are you gonna be a CrossFit person and then
Well, I don't know. So I'm
just
gonna go
talk to me
check it out.
nonstop about CrossFit? Like, yeah, bro,
No,
I do
no.
CrossFit.
It's so funny. This is so off topic, but the guy in my office that recommended that I do it, and he gave me very valid reasons, which were not to be like, raw CrossFit. That's exactly what I said. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Yeah, I
You
don't want to
guys
be a
are like
CrossFit bro.
really a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm exploring some different things. But the thing that I do like about it is it's around the house for me, right?
Mhm.
So it's literally right down the street from me. I could walk there.
Mhm.
So I'm like, when we make things convenient for ourselves, we're more apt to stick with it.
Mhm.
So if I have to drive to a gym that's like, out of the way, I'm not going. I
Yeah.
don't have time to go up there. So by doing the work that I did last night, it frees up a lot of time for me, as far as the actual care involved, with the animals, which means that hopefully I'll have a little bit more time to spend with them. But yes, number one is obviously I would love to just go get on my horse every morning and run through the woods.
Mhm.
But that's like an hour that's I'd never go to work.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
who
like
needs to go to work?
it's overrated.
Yeah.
But like my Reiki was something that interested me for a very long time. And but I was like, is it real? How do I know if this person's legit?
Mhm.
Can you really, trust a Yelp rating, whatever.
Yeah.
So lucky for me, you found Lori and she's great. Um, so I really do look forward to that. Actually, this podcast is another kind of self care thing I like to do
Mhm.
because I find that even today, I had a rough couple of days and I was really just kind of like, it may not be a very good idea to record today because I'm really not in a good headspace right
Mhm.
now. But I also knew that if I recorded today and we got to jibber jabber and share our experiences, that some of the things that we would be discussing would probably help me.
Yeah.
Um, and then just sitting outside. And that was another thing. Ironically, my father says things sometimes, and I'm like, what do you know about that? So, for example, uh, he said to me, one of the reasons he came over yesterday, even though he wasn't supposed to come over yesterday because he was busy,
Mhm.
was because he had such a frantic day and he finds peace in walking out in my field. And so while we were doing manual labor out there, he was like, we had beautiful weather and it was nice. Basically, what he was doing was connecting to nature and
Mhm.
just, although we didn't have our shoes off, um, we were just kind of connecting and grounding. And he was like, I needed it. So I just left and figured we'd finish our project
Yeah.
because it gave me a reason to come over here and be out here and just find some peace and tranquility. And so that's why I say, like, we all have different ways of phrasing it. We all have different ways of um describing it, I
Mhm.
guess, or whatever you want to say. But like my dad was balancing his fucking energy. Like he
Yeah.
was feeling out of balance. And so the first thing that he thought to do was to just go be in nature.
Mhm.
and just walk around in my freaking field, you know?
Yeah.
So, um, that was really awesome. And then he had said something else to me. He says things again where I'm like, who are you? And why are you being
Yeah.
my father? He said something to me about, well, if you just keep wanting it, you'll get it. Well, I'm like, that's manifesting
Yeah.
at a very basic level,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's just setting your intentions on something. And I'm
Mhm.
like, so again, he says things to me sometimes, asking you shall receive and things like
Mhm.
that. That I'm just like, where have you been all my life? Or
Yeah,
he'll
like
be
what the heck?
or he'll be like, well, now's really not a good time to plant that. He's like, you got to watch the moon cycles. And I'm like,
What? I need to have a conversation with your dad.
I'm telling you,
Has he been trying to steer you in the right direction this whole time and you just weren't paying attention?
I guess.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So nature is like another thing that I really like to do. And again, I have to, it goes back to that whole thing where like I have a hard time putting myself as the priority.
Mhm.
Because I found this amazing lady who was like, she's a masseuse, and she's this really skinny, tiny lady. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be like the worst massage I've ever gotten in my life. But when I tell you, I was like, I think I'm in love. Can I just live down here?
Yeah.
Never stop.
Yeah.
And I did. I started to feel like selfish about it.
Mhm.
Uh, but it was a really nice way to just kind of like woosah for a moment. And I guess she puts on like the singing bowls and kind
Mhm.
of that meditative music. And so in some ways it was like meditation for me. So
Yeah.
that's something that I've been hearing a lot about, reading a lot about, haven't quite mastered or figured out how to do it. But I want to start taking that time to meditate.
Yeah. Well, you
And
can start off with so I don't think I meditate in like the traditional sense, but there are a lot of guided meditations. I would just be careful. I think we've
yeah,
talked about like who we're going to allow into that space, but there are some really good self-guided meditations. I did used to listen to some for like because I have a lot of trouble sleeping. So, that's one way to start, but a lot of it like where I've gotten when I meditate, because I meditate every single night. It's just I'm not sitting there on the floor with my legs crossed and saying and all that.
lotus.
Yeah, look, I'm not doing that. I don't really play the frequencies while I'm doing it. I just literally I lay there and I just get myself into a relaxed state, and I'm just getting in, like I'm just listening to my body, my soul, and then the third eye opens up and here comes the fucking visions. Like that's usually what happens.
So
So,
I have to try that because I do. That's another thing I really like to do is I listen to frequency music,
mhm.
especially at work.
Yeah. No, and that's great. And another thing that I started doing, it's weird because I started doing this a lot, like the past probably week and a half. I started listening to classical music on my drive home because like frequencies, like I love frequencies, but sometimes you're just kind of like, okay, like I'm just hearing the same chime over and over type of thing. But classical music, because I was reading up on that guy that we had talked about with the research on the water, and classical music essentially has the same effects that like frequencies and positivity does. So I'll just be driving home. I'm stuck in traffic, just hanging out, listening to fucking classical music, and I'm in a great mood. So if frequencies really aren't your thing, try, which I highly recommend frequencies. Like I obviously not. I love frequencies. It is so fucking helpful for your mind, body, and soul, the frequencies. But if you get to a point where it's like, I don't really feel like listening to the chimes and the singing bowls, and listen to classical music because I feel like it has the same effect.
Yeah. I know it's so funny that you talk about classical music because you always hear about a lot of the benefits that it has for all sorts of different
Yeah,
things. And I remember I tried listening one time and I'm like, but there's no words.
that's the
This
point.
is boring.
Because
And this
it's
was also like 20 years ago.
well,
But
because I used to listen to it when I was like, I've always loved classical music since I was a kid. And I would listen to classical music while I studied, with the few times that I actually did study. And like, it would help me retain things. And like, I'd ace my
yeah,
fucking test. So,
yeah. No, again, it says it, you hear a lot of studies or read a lot of, hear a lot of studies,
mm-hmm.
read a lot of studies that talk about that. But now I think I would be more open to it because now I find myself listening to tones and vibrations and frequencies and things like that, more than listening to like mainstream radio.
Mm-hmm.
So cool tip. You're
Yeah.
full of cool tips today.
Yeah, I have a ton of them, like, and especially
Well,
because like I got that, I scrubbed off the negativity today. I'm
yeah.
feeling fucking great. Like I'm full of tips.
And I think that really just is about figuring out what works for you, right? Because that is
Mm-hmm.
something that I was listening to the other day about meditation, right? There
Mm-hmm.
is no right or wrong way to
Mm-mm.
do it. You have to do with whatever you feel comfortable with, whatever resonates with you.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that goes back to stop comparing yourself to other people. Stop being so hard on yourself,
Yeah.
because like when you do sit in that lotus position with your fingers like this and you're trying to and on, it feels unnatural to you. Now, if that works for you,
Yeah.
that's great. Hey, this resonates with me and I really like that.
Yeah.
Hey, dope. But if it doesn't, then I think that's again, even I myself am a little bit guilty of it. Is it's like, well, I'm not doing it right, so this isn't going to work, and
Mm-hmm.
you're just stupid and you don't even know how to meditate. You can't even freaking shut up for 10 seconds so that you could quiet your mind. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
you start like, okay, Veronica,
Yeah.
thank you, but I'm busy.
Yeah.
And taking those moments, and I think it does just kind of like, it's a good kind of self-care
Mm-hmm.
thing, but whatever it is that you find, and that's why my dad and I were talking about why I'm so into my horses and stuff, because he's like, oh, I love to just go walk through the woods and this and that, and I was like, oh, me too, but I don't like to use my own legs.
Yeah.
And I was like, but for me, it's so funny because like I think of the movie Avatar, and they
Mm-hmm.
like take their little braid or tail or whatever and they connect into their animal or whatever. And that's kind of like how I feel sometimes
Mm-hmm.
when I feel connected, not just like to my animal, but like just to the universe.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what I used to say all the time. Like I would come back from a ride and feel like my soul had been cleansed. Like
Yeah.
it's just an opportunity to just like breathe
Mm-hmm.
with no responsibility. I'm not worrying about getting back to this or doing that. And again, that goes back to what we were talking before, and we'll probably do another episode on, is living in the now, living
Yeah.
in the moment, and um, something that may be a cool tip for others that was brought to my attention was like, because I have a 45-minute drive to work. Uh, and not a lot is going on that drive. So, some people can get aggravated about, the distance that they have to drive, or maybe the traffic that you might encounter. And they talked about making it meditative driving was the term that they used, but he's like, obviously you're not going to close your eyes and
Yeah.
sit, in a place. But what it was really more about was just being aware of your surroundings,
Mm-hmm.
look around. And then, you notice that, the brake lights are, coming from way up ahead, or, hey, I never noticed that shop there, or,
Mm-hmm.
hey, that's a beautiful tree, or whatever. Right. And you're
Yeah.
just taking in your surroundings and finding that positivity of,
Mm-hmm.
hey, when you're stopped in traffic, you get to take a look around and see maybe what environment you drive through every day. Because I know on my way to work, when I work where you work, we drive past a lot of cemeteries.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, there's things that I'm noticing like almost every single day. Like, I don't, was that Dunkin' Donuts always there? Like because you don't get it.
Right.
That's one thing. Like, I love driving, but like that's the one thing I don't like about driving is I don't get to look around and like
Right.
bring in.
You're watching the road.
Yeah, because fucking people in New York can't fucking drive. But like you said, you make the best of it. Because yeah, I mean, I drive about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic. And you make the best of it. Like, you don't want to waste these moments. Like, if, you can take in, safely, obviously, like, oh, look at that tree over there, or make good use and find yourself a good podcast, like the Cosmic Compass.
Or even, yeah, absolutely. But, sometimes too, I just sit in silence,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had some pretty awesome thoughts, like
Yeah.
creating this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
While just driving, where I think about things, like, what is it that I really want? And so I
Mm-hmm.
guess in some ways that is meditating,
Yeah.
and taking that moment for myself. Um, And so again, so that's what I just look at it as I get the next 45 minutes to just kind of be.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to kind of pay attention or whatever. And,
Right.
um, but at the same time, when you're not distracted by anything else, um, you can kind of do like a meditative driving, if you
Yeah.
will.
And
Again,
I
your eyes aren't closed and you're not.
right. And just having those conversations with yourself and getting to know yourself so that you can love yourself, because that's the
And forgive
problem.
yourself.
Yeah, forgive yourself. That because that's like a big problem with like the way we live our lives now in this society. It's like everything's go 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 go. The hustle and bustle. Like things have to be done now. Like just like I'm just as guilty. Like why isn't this web page loading up faster? Like you should be faster. Like I want it right now, type of thing. But like you get those moments like that you should be grateful. I'm grateful for the
It's
fact that
so
I have it.
funny you mentioned that because I was sitting on I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
That's all right.
I was sitting on my front porch and that's what I do. I drink my coffee out there
Yeah.
or whatever. And trying to scroll through TikTok and it's not, as you can see, I kind of have a mild addiction, but it's
Mhm.
not pulling up, right?
Mhm.
The screen just keeps going bump, bump.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God, what? I just want to, and I'm not kidding you. When I looked up, I saw a hummingbird out,
Dope.
out of nowhere, just one. And like as soon as I made contact with it, it flew away. But like again, it goes back to those moments. And so sometimes I feel like those uh conflicts that we think we're having, like why isn't
Mhm.
this loading or why isn't this working, is because the universe is like, "Psst,
Yeah.
look up,
Yeah, take a second.
we're missing it."
Oh, that's so funny because like something very similar happened to me today. Because like when I'm on the phone in my car, I try not to switch from my car. Like when I pull into my driveway, I sit in my car and chat for a little bit because it's like sometimes the Bluetooth doesn't connect right or it
Hmm.
fucks my phone up. So I'm sitting there, I'm talking, and then like it's like I just want to get in the house because like I got things I gotta do. I want to eat, whatnot, take care of the dogs, and then I get off the phone or I'm starting to get off phone like here comes 3 fucking turkeys. And I'm like, what
Oh,
the fuck? Like they're walking right next to my car and I'm watching them and I'm like, wait a minute. Is this safe to get out? Like, do turkeys attack type of thing? So then, I end up getting off the phone and I managed to like, get a picture of these 3 turkeys because they came back around and they crossed in front of my driveway and they're just walking. I'm like, and they kind of start looking at me. I'm just like, please don't attack me. I just want to take a picture and then I'm going to go inside. And like, but it's just those moments like you guys really have to just take the moments to slow down and appreciate when the universe is making you slow down, like being stuck
yeah,
in traffic or
yeah.
the 45-minute drive that we have to drive to work, like
Or waking up late, or
waking up late.
yeah,
Yeah.
can't find your keys, whatever it is. It's someone telling you to just take a pause,
Yeah.
right? And so by focusing all of these things and using all these tips and tricks, right? And what all of that self-love does is it raises your vibrational level. And which brings me kind of back to the point we talked about in the beginning, which helps with manifestation, it helps with reaching goals, it helps
Hmm.
with outlook on life, it helps you figure out what it is maybe you want to do in life,
Yeah.
because now you have a better understanding of who you are, what's important to you, how certain situations make you feel.
Hmm.
Uh, you have better trust in yourself to know, like, seriously, I quit my job and moved halfway across the country
Yeah. Fucking jerk.
on a whim. So, but following what I felt like I was being pulled to do.
Hmm.
So, you know, it all kind of builds on itself. And and again, just know that it's not something that you're ever going to just be like, and I'm done.
And I'm done. Yeah.
Because as we move through this journey, there's different things that we experience, good, bad, and indifferent, and
Hmm.
it makes us into who we are, and gets us one step closer to our higher selves. And um it's really not that serious.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, just say, well, okay, own it.
Yeah.
Okay, I fucked up.
Everything happens for a reason. The universe is going to
Moving
give
on.
the universe is going to give you lessons and you just or assignments and you're like, you know what? I acknowledge I failed that assignment. I'm ready for next time.
Retest.
Retest.
Yeah, so I think that I think this was good, and like I said, it
Yeah.
really helped me. So
I'm glad. I'm really glad for that. And I think we kind of missed some
I
things.
love our conversation.
I really do too. I think we definitely need probably another episode at some point in the future about self-care and self-love, because there's so much. There's so much that goes
Absolutely.
into
And
it.
and maybe we can, get some questions or
Yeah.
input from our listeners to maybe further elaborate on some more specific
Mhm.
things. Because again, it's kind of hard too, because I we give out suggestions and again things that we've experienced and things that work for us. But that's just us. And like we
Yeah.
said in the podcast, you can't compare yourself to others. So just
Mhm.
find that thing that, you know, makes you feel good, and make sure you're taking that time for yourself, and know that you're not being selfish.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy how it impacts your life
Mhm.
in a good way,
Right.
you know. And
Yeah.
so maybe we could do that if we get some feedback or
Yeah. Well,
questions, comments, concerns.
I think that's a great segue into just remembering that you guys can always email us at the Cosmic Compass Podcast at gmail.com. You can also message us on Instagram at the Cosmic Compass. You can't message on TikTok unless you're mutuals, but we are also on, obviously, TikTok if you want to watch. Liz has been killing it with the videos lately. So, make sure you follow us on the Cosmic Compass. I think one of my, on my to-do list for this weekend is to set up a link tree for us, so that way it puts all of our links there. So eventually that'll be there when Jen gets around to it. So, but that's how you guys can reach out. Please, like I was at the premiere. That sounds so weird saying it that way, but we put the episodes as premieres just because like I want to be there when people watch it live and get like the feedback and whatnot. And so like just the interaction that was happening during that premiere, and I'm obviously going to watch the premiere of this one and see the interaction. And so people just leave in the comment sections. I'm going to try to write it down, and or you can always email us or message us on Instagram. Whatever you guys want to know about, talk about. If you have questions, if you have, what works for you when it comes to self-care and self-love and all that, like we're open.
Absolutely.
I think that we can definitely like, every, how we'll figure, me and Liz will figure this out like off the show, or off the recording, but I think we can periodically have like a viewer episode where we go through. I think we talked about that last time, where we go through comments and emails and stuff like that. So
yeah, because it's definitely a conversation. This has to be two ways, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I think that would be really cool.
All right. Well, do you have any other closing remarks before we go for the night, buddy?
No, just remember to love yourself, and everything is fine. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, and the only thing I gotta say is go outside, be in nature, walk barefooted, but just don't send Jen feet pics. All right, buddies. See you next time.
Bye.